Hi, Kunal. Welcome to Bangalore.
Well, thank you. Thank you so much.
Right, Kunal, I'm sure a lot of people are curious about you had a running Bollywood career and a big
Right.
fan following. Then, how did entrepreneurship happen?
It happened actually quite by chance. I think I was inclined towards business because I come from a business family, and before I became an actor, I worked in the stock market for a year and a half. So there was a keen interest there, obviously. But what happened is I was working in the social space with a number of NGOs, and I found that there were a lot of challenges that these NGOs were facing. Primarily, the challenge of raising money. For every 100 rupees that they raised, 50 rupees actually went into raising that money, which I thought was really unfair because I felt like more money needed to go to the people that actually needed it. Secondly was the challenge of reaching out to donors. So you had a donor base, and once you reached out to them, it was difficult to reach out to them over and over again and say, can you contribute some money again? And thirdly, I just found that the whole social space in this country had a lot of gravity attached to it. It was all very serious. It kept a lot of people away from it. Like young people wanted to be involved, but they were like, maybe this is not for me. Whereas when I looked out west at the ecosystem, it was always lots of fun. The marathons, people are baking cakes. There's garage sales. So there's a lot of fun that's happening around. It's serious business, but there's a lot of fun that's happening to make it happen. So I felt like we needed to change that. And at the same time, I happened to meet Varun Seth, who's the co-founder of Ketto. And he had worked in the social space, and he was grappling with similar sort of issues. So we felt like what would be really interesting is to use technology to build a bridge between people that can help and people that need helping. And that's where the seed of Ketto was born. The other thing that we also wanted to do was that capital is something that is traditionally restricted to just a few people. You have all these people with great ideas, but they don't have access to capital. We felt like that needed to change because it was changing across the world. You had people with great ideas, and you could reach out to anyone, anywhere in the world, and pitch that idea to them, and say, look, are you interested in my product or in my startup or in my social cause? So we felt like capital needed to be sort of democratized. That was our aim as well. So that's the mission with which we started Ketto. The full form is Key to Tomorrow. It's an abbreviation for Key to Tomorrow, because we truly believe that crowdfunding is the key to tomorrow.
But crowdfunding per se is pretty new for India. I mean, in the
Right,
West,
right.
it's very known, and people participate, and most celebrities there know about it.
Sure,
And we hear
sure.
big headlines about crowdfunding in the West. How's your experience been trying to almost create this market in India and build it?
Well, it was incredibly challenging, obviously, because me and Varun, we started off just two of us. We put in our own money and we started this, and our first office was Varun's dad's office. We had a little cabin in it.
Okay.
After 6 months, we finally got one more team member, which was accountant and manager, and we were like, now we are a team. We are three of us. So it was very challenging to begin with, especially because nobody really understood. Even when we started 4 years back, crowdfunding was something that was not known across the world. There was a buzz around it, but it wasn't the industry that it is today. So it was really about educating the seller, which is the NGO or the person that's starting a fundraiser, the buyer, in this case the person that is donating, and the investors, because the investors wouldn't get it. And so we had a situation where we reached out to a lot of investors, and most of them were like, wow, this is a really interesting idea. Meet us after a year. Let's chat after a year, after you've got a lot more traction going. Then we met one investor who said something that was really interesting. It stayed with me. So we went to meet him, and really big investor, and he said, look, I don't think this is going to work.
Okay.
So I was like, he was like, look, I don't believe in this. I don't think it's going to work. But the important thing is not that I don't think it's going to work. The important thing is that you need to believe in it. Because if you believe in it, then a few years later, I'll wish that I had believed in it.
Right.
And a few years later, he invested in the company as well.
Oh, okay.
So yeah, it was very challenging to begin with, but it's been great. I think the fact that we managed to create something out of a market, out of something that didn't exist at all, is something that is really, really gratifying for us. And for us, what's happened is that the volumes that we did last year, 6 months back, we did the same amount of volumes in a month.
Okay.
And now we are doing the same volumes in a week.
Okay.
And I think in the next 6-7 months, we're looking to do the same volumes in a day. So really, it is about like creating a whole new market which didn't exist, and that, of course, is very exciting for us.
Also, I'm curious to know what happens when an actor decides to be an entrepreneur. I mean, when you go tell somebody that I'm going to start a company now and I'm going to be a founder, what are the kind of challenges? I'm curious to understand, do people take you seriously or do they take you too seriously?
I think it's a bit of a double-edged sword because firstly, I don't know, maybe people think that actors are not very smart. Secondly, they just feel like your involvement in this is going to be really shallow. They don't expect you to be deeply involved in this, so it takes a little while for them to take you seriously. But I think, having said that, there's also lots of advantages to it, which is that it gives you a lot of mileage in terms of the marketing of, I think as an actor, when I get associated with a company, there's a lot of attention that's drawn towards that company. So it gives you a lot of mileage in terms of that. It also helps you, on our platform, we've had everybody from Mr. Bachchan to Abhishek to Ritik to Priyanka to Anushka, all of them come and start fundraisers and also contribute to fundraisers. So I think that has happened because, I've been involved as well. So there is a lot that you can draw into it. And like I was telling you, I had a really interesting meeting with this. We actually participated in the Wharton startup competition, which we finished right on top. And one of my friends was speaking to the judges after. And he asked the judge that, did the fact that Kunal was pitching influence you guys, or is Ketto really a solid company? So she said, look, Ketto is a really solid company and it's got a really solid business model, which is why it's won. But Kunal to Ketto is what steroids are to a bodybuilder. If you have a bodybuilder that's building a body, he's going to build the body in 3 years. But when he takes steroids, he can build it in a year. So Kunal is to Ketto what steroids is to a bodybuilder, and I thought that was a really interesting sort of analogy.
But what do you enjoy doing more now? Do you still enjoy acting more, or do you think entrepreneurship is something that's even more interesting than a career in Bollywood?
Oh God, I'm going to sound like a mother now and say, how can you ask me to choose my favorite child? No, I mean, they're both very interesting. Of course, I mean, they're both, what I find really interesting about both of them is that they're creative. People feel like a startup is a business. I feel it's the most creative thing that you can do. Because really, you're creating something from scratch. You're disrupting something that has existed, and you need to be really creative to do that. So for me, both of them are really gratifying because at the core of it, I enjoy anything that is creative. And acting and a startup like Ketto, both of them are really, really creative for me. So it's difficult to choose between the two.
Right. Let's talk about crowdfunding per se. Could you tell me about what kind of projects are getting crowdfunded these days? You were just telling me about you helped someone buy a pizza, or 10 pizzas rather.
Well, yeah, there was one guy who started a fundraiser saying that I want a pizza. 450 rupees precisely for a pizza. He raised 4,500, so he's got enough for a month
10
now.
pizzas.
Yeah, but there's been all sorts of projects, which is we've raised money for a sex worker's daughter that wanted to go to the States and study.
Okay.
We've raised money for relief efforts in Nepal, Kashmir, Chennai. We've raised money for creative projects. We've raised money to help a child fight cancer. We've raised money for athletes that want to go for the Commonwealth Games. So all sorts of really different avenues where crowdfunding is sort of working. And what it made me realize is that inherently people are good. People want to help. People want to do something, but you just have to give them the avenue to do it. And our attempt is to give them the avenue, the right sort of avenue, an easy avenue, an interactive avenue, so that they can really sort of get involved. So I really think people are really good. That's what I've learned in the last 3 years. People really want to help, but you really have to show them the way, and that's what we're attempting to do. So we've had all sort of projects, but for me, what is really exciting about crowdfunding, I think we've just sort of, scratched the surface right now. Because I believe if we can raise money for social projects, if we can raise money for individual projects, for creative projects, then there's nothing that stops us to raise money for scientific breakthroughs, for medical research, for infrastructure work. Things that the government is not paying attention to, or things that the corporates don't have the bandwidth to pay attention to. Those are things that can be crowdfunded. And in fact, we have somebody who just approached us recently. He wants to crowdfund for cancer research.
Okay.
So I feel like there's really interesting avenues that crowdfunding is going to go into. In fact, I was just reading a really interesting article about these bunch of people in New Zealand. 40,000 of them got together and raised $2 million because this one guy was selling his beach. And they felt like instead of going to another private guy, it should be public property.
Okay.
So the whole city sort of got together and bought this beach out, and now it's public property.
Okay.
So there's lots of really interesting avenues that crowdfunding is going to sort of develop into, and I think this is just the beginning.
You know, but looking from a distance, getting somebody to take out money out of his pocket and actually contribute to something,
Right.
especially, you know, if we move away from CEOs and stars, you know, maybe general people who want to contribute,
Right.
Versus before starting Keto to when now that you're doing it. Is there a myth that has broken for you? I mean, did you also sort of believe that, you know, how many people will actually invest, and the kind of response that you see when you start something out, you know, when you start a project? Could you
Right.
talk to me about that? What's the kind of response?
Well, you know, I think that the fact that, like I'm saying, the volumes have grown so fast and so tremendously is a testimony of the fact that people really want to help and give. I don't think I was ever cynical about the fact that people would contribute. I think Indians are charitable and we want to help. But like I'm saying is that, you know, you need to make sure that the avenue that you give them is the right one, because we all feel a little, we're all afraid that our money is not going to go to the right place. You know, we all want to contribute. I'm like, okay, I want to help this child, but, you know, I don't know if the child is actually going to get the money or not.
True.
Or, you know, it's going to be a really long process. So what we've tried to do is simplify that. We brought transparency to it so that you know that the money is going to the right place. And it's done in a way where you could be sitting at the airport, or you could be sitting at a conference like this, and you decide that I'm going to take 2 minutes off and I'm going to help a child somewhere, or I'm going to help someone with their education. And you come onto the platform and you help somebody in 2 minutes. So we've tried to make it as simple and engaging as that. So yeah, you know, I don't think it's changed my perception, because my perception was always that Indians are charitable.
Okay.
And like I said, the thing that I've learned is that there's a lot of goodness. You know, there's a lot of people that want to help. And the more options you give them, the more likely they are to help.
Right. Let's talk about your business per se. You know,
Right.
how does a crowdfunding company make money? Are you already making money? And I mean, you know, how does that model work?
Well, we work actually on, we're working on 3 models now. One is obviously is that, so we work as an aggregator between people that need money and people that are going to give money.
Okay.
And the fee that we charge for that is 10%, out of which a certain percentage goes to the payment gateway.
Okay.
The remaining comes to Cato. So that is one of the revenue models. The other thing that we're trying to do is we're trying to build tools which will make interacting with people much easier.
Okay.
Which is that we're trying to build tools where anybody that has started a fundraiser will be able to interact with the people that are contributing in a lot easier sort of way, and also give information that they haven't been able to give earlier. So we're going to charge for those tools as well. And the third thing that we're trying to do is we're trying to work with the corporates for their CSR projects. So usually what happens is that if a corporate wants to do a CSR project, they might write a check out and give it to an organization. What we are telling the corporates is that you might want to build 10 wells somewhere as your CSR project. We will do that for you. We will have an entire project report of how this is done, how that is helping people, and we'll send the whole report back to you. So instead of just writing out a check, you know, make a bigger difference, which is that you might want to do something that is specific. You might want to build a school. So we will help you build that school and, you know, send you all the information about how it was done and now how the school is helping that area. So all the project reports, everything will come back to you. So we're trying to implement that as well.
Kunal, what's your long-term vision for Keto and for crowdfunding in India?
The long-term vision is to make capital really easy to acquire for anybody. You know, I think we live in a world where we've lived in a world where there were lots of great ideas, and these ideas didn't find backers, and those ideas died. Because, like I said, capital is controlled by a few people, and these people decide who should be funded and who should not be funded. And most people don't even have access to these, you know, people with the money. I think now, no matter how audacious your idea is, how disruptive it is, how threatening it is to bigger companies, you have access to capital across the world. All you need is a is an internet connection, a great idea, and the ability to convince people that your idea is worth backing. So for me, I feel what my long-term dream is that capital should be really easily acquired to people that need it and have great ideas and are doing things that are making a difference to the world. And like I said, just in the social space, individual space, and creative space, that's just the beginning. What is going to happen is that it's going to enter into areas which are going to actually help us solve a lot of problems that we're facing in today's world. So whether it's medical breakthroughs, whether it's scientific research, whether it's infrastructure projects, whether it's rural development, there's a lot of things that can be done through crowdfunding. So yeah, my dream is easy capital to acquire and to go into areas that people haven't gone into as yet.
Right. Could you tell us about some of the challenges that you face while running such a business in India? I mean, any problems that you come across or anything that you wish was easier to
Well, I
do
think
or
the problem
execute?
really is, and I don't even think it's a problem. I wouldn't call it a problem. I think it's a challenge, which is how do you educate people
Okay.
to best use the platform? Like I said, now investors are getting educated because there's a lot of buzz around crowdfunding. GoFundMe just got sold for $700 million. So there's a lot of interest in the area. So there's no need to educate the investors anymore. But the people that are selling, which are the NGOs and the individuals that are starting projects, it's very important to educate them and educate them quickly. So I think that is a challenge that we're working on. I don't see it as a problem. I see it as something that is exciting, actually.
Right. And when do we see your next movie, or have you completely moved away from acting?
No, I have. I've just finished a film. It's called Venom. It's a film I shot in 3 languages, actually. Hindi, English, and Malayalam, which was a bit of a nightmare. And that's up for release in August to September. And I'm shooting another film for Gauri Shinde. She's the lady that made English Winglish
Yeah.
with Shah Rukh and Alia. So I start shooting
How
for
do you
that now.
manage time, Kunal? I mean, being an entrepreneur itself is quite a handful, and
Right.
here you have a Bollywood career, which is another,
Right.
really busy profession to be in.
Well, I sleep
you
less, I
sleep?
think. I sleep very little, so I guess I have more time than anybody else. And I just feel like, when you're passionate about something, whether it's your acting career or it's or it's Ketto, when you're passionate about something, I don't think you think about time. It just happens really naturally. You want to sort of contribute, you want to be involved, even if that means it's, takes a little toll on the amount of time you can sleep for, or, the amount of time you can hang out with your friends for. But I think when you're passionate about something, you're sort of driven anyway. It doesn't feel like an effort. So it's never felt like an effort for me. Okay, oh God, I've got to act and I've got to do this. How am I going to do this? It doesn't feel like an effort at all.
Right. Thank you so much, Kunal. It was
Thank
a
you.
pleasure
Thank you
speaking
so
with
much.
you. Thank you.